Welcome all. This is Marduk's Musing, myself, Mario, and Dorje, and we're here to do the 2025 forecast part three. This is going to be for September to December. And Dorje, you want to say hello?
Yeah, it's Dorje from Heart Astrology here, and excited to go over this, Mario. I mean, it's quite a lot going on in the last quarter, last third of the year that we haven't touched in on. Some part of that, I think, is a review of the energies that were introduced in the spring and the summer, and then a reintegration of them, or because a lot of it has to do with the retrograde motion of the planets, remaking aspects or re-entering signs that they ingressed out of in the last half of the year.
Yeah, well said. Dorje's talking about the Aries Vortex, the ingressions into Aries of Neptune and Saturn that's happening in the spring. And then what we're seeing in the fall, the second part of the year, is those planets exiting, regressing, or retrograding back into Pisces. And we're also seeing a revisitation of those energies, as Dorje said, through the squares. Both Jupiter first and then Mars are going to square the Aries vortex, thus complicating, underscoring, and nuancing attention of what is introduced, this new vision or dream that's introduced into humanity in the spring. It's
Well,
going to,
Mario, I know you're a Virgo, but like a Jupiter-Mars square, there's nothing nuanced about a Jupiter-Mars square. That is like some big, like fire, like, over the top energy when you get those Jupiter-Mars squares, you know?
no, but it's Jupiter squaring the vortex, and then Mars squaring the vortex. You
That's
know,
right. Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
even like more underlined, right? It's
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, to me, it kind of like invokes the symbology of like like if the Roadrunner and the Wile E. Coyote cartoons, it's like it's like that coyote is about to get slammed. He keeps coming back alive, but he's going to get hit again in the fall. It's like that truck's going to round the corner and run over him again, even though he thought he survived in the through the summer and the spring.
what an analogy for the modern world.
Oh
Uh,
boy, yeah.
we'll see where we fit into that. It feels like we're almost like I don't know what the exact analogy is, like in a family, like all of a sudden you're introduced to all these stepchildren or some other family that's related to your family somehow, and now you're just like secondary, you know? It's
Yep.
something like that almost. It's like the machines that are coming in, like what space are they going to take up? What space is there to take up? We're here in this space, and with the Aries vortex, with the dissolving and the reemerging, yeah, we'll get into it. So one last thing before we get started for everyone. Um, the context or the environment I'd like to interpret through the human design. And what that is that the North Node in Pisces throughout the whole year for the next 2 years is in gate 36, South Node, gate 6, starting in a couple days in January 30th. And that'll be till June 13th. And so we're going to be dealing with relationships and the integrity, authenticity of our relationships with others. That'll shift on June 14th to the North Node going into gate 22, the gate of grace, and the South Node going into gate 48, 47, the gate of oppression. And so we're talking about the second half of the year. And what I mean by grace and oppression is that there will be a tension between us focusing on what's important for us as individuals and as a collective, despite the challenges of external forces, minimizing resources and changing environment, attempting to oppress and shift the environments. So will our actions and our behavior will be better accompanied with grace. So no matter what we experience, what challenges we face this year, it's important to have grace. And that's the message of gate 22.
Hmm.
And I'll let Dorje, if you want to reflect on that. If not, we'll go ahead right
Oh
into.
no, let's put up the charts. Let's get going. I mean, human design's not my specialty. Anybody wants a human design reading? Mario's the guy.
Okay, so the first, thanks for that. The first chart we have is the September 7th total lunar eclipse. Now, this is occurring it's going to be visible in the States and as well as, let's see, North America. Yeah, most of North America, Canada, and yeah. And so here's the chart right here. And right away we see that the eclipse is going to occur in Pisces, 15 degrees. And the south node will be, sorry, the sun will be in Pisces, in Virgo, sorry, in Virgo, and the moon will be in Pisces. And right away we see the north node in Pisces conjunct this moon, along with the asteroid Nessus, which is the asteroid of, it's kind of like it's a healing asteroid, I'd say. It's working through abuse. You know, Nessus is both Pluto and Mars together. And then Saturn's too far off at this point. It's 9 degrees. It's pretty much out of orb. Uh, Dorje, how about you? Any quick hits before I come back?
Brady delineates this eclipse as being one that we need to meet others halfway, uh, having an artistic eye, mystical experiences, having sympathy for others, deep inner experiences, novel insights, sudden insights, and adjustments to new circumstances in life. And that's because it's a Saros 128 lunar eclipse cycle. But at the same time, if you look at the moon opposed Mercury, the moon in Pisces opposing Mercury in Virgo, you see that theme of communication as right there, and that inner mysticism. So there's a quality to this eclipse that I think is going to be really useful for people tapping into their own spiritual insight. And I'm not a fan of like doing any types of rituals or magic during eclipses because of the karmic nature of them and the ability for um, the ability for spiritual weirdness to occur during an eclipse, spiritual, emotional, psychological weirdness to occur during an eclipse. But I would say like this eclipse is definitely going to offer a potential for spiritual insight. And also for perhaps, like bringing up and then resolving deep questions about communication, about misunderstandings that might have arisen due to vagueness. So there could be deep understandings that arise due to miscommunication, but in the end, those are going to be really helpful in resolving issues of miscommunication. And that, on a cultural level as well as on a personal level. Um, yeah, that's just kind of my immediate hit there.
That's brilliant. I think that's essentially what it is because having the North Node conjunct the moon in this eclipse, along with Nessus, tells me the usual thematic of a Pisces eclipse is, the ruler being Jupiter and the sub-ruler being Neptune. It tells me that the waters, the ocean is unsettled, right?
Yeah.
Freezing. And so this could bespeak some kind of some kind of incident, some kind of earth change. Another example of more earth changes. It could be an earthquake, could be tsunami related. This to me seems like, and it's also eclipse Pisces, I'm sorry, Virgo Pisces axis. So it seems
Hmm.
to me this could be a big shock eclipse. Something
Hmm.
really happening in one of the areas where it's being visible, which is where it has the most power of something occurring so catastrophic to people in a certain area that there's no choice but to confront, the existential and spiritual nature of their beingness, you know, and to deal with that head on.
Well, that's pretty bleak. I mean, good for them, I guess. That's kind of bleak.
Oh, well, I mean, the spiritual part is we're spirits and bodies. So there's no
Sure.
weakness
Yeah.
to our understanding of spirit if we can get there, with grace, and if we can realize what's important, because again, we're in a physical, realm, right? So um we're not
Well,
here.
and that is thematic with the year, with the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries, and then both of them moving in and out of Aries and Pisces, because Pisces is this level of deep acceptance of God per se, one could say, like the age of Pisces has been very much about the um, individual God, the one God, the true God, whether it's Allah or Yahweh or whatever. That's the age of Pisces is like that, and then Aries is so much more proactive and individualistic. So then, what is your spirituality in relationship to into the accepted spirituality of the mass versus your own inner truth. And I think that is part of the themes that people will be like relating to a little bit this year. And with that is the ability to really dive deeper into your own belief system and belief structures, not the ones that you're given through like, Sunday school or through the 700 Club. If anybody ever watches that anymore, I don't know. Is that even still on? I don't know. But the spirituality that you find individually through coming to understand your own personal relationship, not a mediated relationship to what is uh, being a human. And I think that's part of the call and the challenges that we're facing this year. And I think this series of eclipses in the lunar eclipses in the Virgo Pisces axis definitely um, invoke that experience and invoke that journey for as part of the zeitgeist of the year.
Beautiful. Do you think then that the Aries vortex with Neptune and Saturn portend a new vision, a new dream of humanity in the sense that we're not giving away our power to some external force anymore, that we're forced to into the Aries kind of lone wolf individuated essence of who we are, that's could be the new dream or at least the new image or
I don't know. It's an interesting question, because Pluto in Aquarius has always moved humanism, the ideal of the human community forward. Every time it comes up, every 280 or so years, the last time being the French Revolution and the American Revolution and these n noble ideals of humanitarian egalitarianism and fraternity and freedom of man, between 1780 and the end of 1790. But at the same time, like I do think that there's um, this like greater understanding of the value of the individual and the responsibility to engage with that more that's being pushed by Pluto and Aquarius, but is also going to be pushed by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. There's some research out there that I've been reading on how Saturn and Neptune conjunctions uh, tend to tend to create a movement towards mass protests, uh, and especially like it's really strongly associated with the communist era in Russia.
right,
And the collective and the gathering of the collective to demand the individual has rights beyond what the king decrees.
right, right.
I would say right now we're kind of like I mean, right now at the beginning of the year, it feels like there's kind of like that particular question. There's a boil festering about it, and over the course of the year, I think that's pardon the language. I know we're both Virgos, but that boil is going to be kind of like busted, and it's going to spew out, and it's going to be just total chaos. And that these eclipse cycles are going to be part of that, as well as the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and Uranus moving into Gemini and Pluto being in Aquarius, all of that significant shift of the outer planets.
Well said. I could go on and nuance, and I'm sure you could too. But let's move on, and we'll come back to it because the Aries vortex is all over every chart that we're going to look at this year. So we'll definitely come back to that. Um, any last things before we move on from this chart?
But just out of curiosity, since we're touching in on it again, like what do you see the Aries vortex as being about, and a societal broad perspective, but also for an individual perspective
Yeah,
at the chart point?
that's the question. When I look at it, we're looking at the world axis. We're looking at that degree, right, where things begin. Aries, 0 degrees. And we're looking at Neptune going in first. So we're looking at a vision, whether it's a delusional vision, like in the past, when Neptune comes to meet Saturn, there's been the beginnings of communism, which is a type of collective systemic control, presented as something laudatory and something that brings humanity together.
Hmm.
It's, you got deception mixed in with the solidification of a new system. So it's pretty disturbing to me. But when I see Neptune by itself first, it's that there's a month or two where Neptune will be in there by itself after March 30th. And so it's a little while before Saturn jumps in on May 25th. But there's other factors, there's the Venus star point on,
Hmm.
and I think that's on March 23rd. And that's going to be 2 degrees Aries. And that's a beautiful signature.
Hmm.
That's when the sun and Venus come together. And that's a beautiful imprint on this point. And it'll create a tension, between Saturn and Neptune and the sun and Venus imprinting its Venusian kind of grace over what is going to happen, what is going to emerge from this new beginning. So I see it as a new beginning that is going to be supported by Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini, right? We got the trine and the sextile.
Hmm.
It creates a minor grand trine altogether. And that's going to be on and on until 2027 for the next 2 years. And as you pointed out, so clearly, we have planets that are squaring the Aries vortex. In other words, there's going to be responses to whatever emerges
Hmm.
during that time. And those responses, Mars is not light. Mars is direct and action oriented.
Yeah.
Jupiter
Yeah.
is going to expand, or confuse things, or make too much of it, right? Which causes, Mars to come in later, right? And check it. So there seems to be it's part of this whole synodic cycle with that Jupiter Saturn conjunction in 2020, 21. And it seems like we're going through a process of something is being birthed in this environment of humanity. And what we're looking at is whether that supports humankind or not. And if it doesn't support humankind, how can it? We're going to ask the questions. How can this support us? Because we're still here. We're living here. We're in our beingness here. We're still realizing our essence as spiritual beings. And and that'll be the questions that'll come up for all of us, for you, for myself, for everyone listening, is what emerging from this Aries vortex, is it supporting us or is it not? And if it's not supporting us, are we to modify it so that it can support us? That to me is the high frequency, the a way of looking at it from the high road, from how can we utilize this planetary geometry that's occurring for the first time ever in the next two
Mm,
years.
yep.
All right, ready to move on? Let's go to the
Yeah,
next.
yeah. Let's see. What do we got here?
Okay, so I'm gonna go to I'm calling it the vortex eclipse, but it's the September 21st solar eclipse.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm calling it that because it's conjuncting, or actually it's opposing because it's in Virgo Libra. So it's actually very close, maybe 2, 3 degree orb opposing the Aries vortex. Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me know if I need to make it bigger. I can make it a little bigger if need be. Feel free to start us off. I'm still kind of adjusting
Oh
to it.
yeah. So then this eclipse, it's got this kind of like opposition to I don't know what's that Saturn. It's got this opposition to Saturn and Pisces. That's a heavy eclipse. Saturn is not a light planet, and Saturn retrograde in Pisces. This is going to be hard. People are going to feel this one. They're going to feel it in that in whatever Pisces rules in their house. And that's like in my mind again, it's about like, well, the struggle between the individual and the community, and the struggle between like just taking care of others and helping others versus like what are your boundaries? What do you have to do to take care of yourself? Becomes very thematic here.
Yeah, let me underscore that. I mean, as Dorje was saying earlier, it's very important for us to really take into consideration the meaning of the North and South Node in Pisces, the North in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, because this is the environment for the next 2.5 years. This is the context. And really, what that means is with the North Node in Pisces, it means we're following our intuition, we're following our heart, we're following our emotion, whatever our authority is in our body. But there's some rare people that have mental authority, but everyone else, we're learning to really trust our body's intelligence.
Hmm.
No longer be stuck in the mind, over reflecting, over analyzing, over criticizing, which pushes the spirit out of the body. And with South Node and Virgo, those things are not going to help us. What's going to help us is the Pisces attributes of the North Node, which is to trust, have faith, move forward, trust our intuition, trust our insights, and move forward quickly because everything is going to move so quickly, especially when Uranus goes into Gemini, which it already be in Gemini at this time of these eclipses in September. Things will be occurring at light speed. And it's almost like time is being played with, like a temporal reset of sort, where we're seeing the world in milliseconds at certain moments. We're seeing it almost through our higher self. We're seeing in between the seconds as they move. And those are kind of pauses in between. But otherwise, things will be happening so quickly that we have to move just as quickly, you know?
Well,
Uh,
I do like feel like it's hard to move quickly when you have Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Um, and so then on one level, I feel like this eclipse it might play out as a pause or a resting point, like you said,
Got it.
in terms of like integrating and assimilating, which are also keywords of Virgo, integrating and assimilating. But there could be a tremendous amount of nervousness, that arises on this day in terms of like in terms of how do you integrate, how do you assimilate when so much has changed structurally around you? And how do you relax into that? Because really, if we're hitting this Saturn Neptune conjunction at the 0 point, and the 0 point continues to be activated throughout the year, the zero Aries point, the zero vortex point, the place of birth in the chart, then we have this quality of like society birthing something new. And the birthing process is painful because the old is dying out. And when the old dies out, there's always things we like about the old. People or humans are creatures of habits. We like the old. And if so, that's dying out and we have to move forward into the new, then how do we do that in a way that is relaxed and empowering for ourselves and for our loved ones versus just kind of like getting caught in the mediated hype of it all. I know we spoke quite a bit on the previous two episodes on 2025 about the danger of like social media. And to me, this eclipse really highlights that sense of like the importance of needing to unplug, to like, just take it back to basic principles, or was a very popular kind of like a metaphor in the last 5, 6 years. Go out and touch grass, drink tea, sit in the sun. And so that's part of the healing process. And I think this eclipse is forcing that healing process.
Beautifully said. I mean, I think we all forget, you know, because we get all hyped up ourselves in our own involvement with social media and communication through these digital networks that we forget I can just shut this down and go outside for a walk
Yeah.
under
Yep.
the sun, you know,
Yep.
and after all that radiation fills up in my hands, like I do put my hands on the ground because I feel it from my cell
Nice.
phone, from when I use the computers, and I have to get that energy out of my body because I start to feel pain, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is so important. Thanks for that. I mean, that underscores the main thematic of this year, which is healing, taking
Hmm.
care of yourself, making time for you and your spirit, and not allowing yourself to be drawn in and fed dry through our electronic, technologies, which unfortunately are a lot of them set in such a way that they deplete us, they radiate us, they affect our frequency field, our biofield. So yeah, right on, man. I think I'll add that I'm gonna take a break from September. I don't think I'm gonna do my best to not open up any computer during September because this eclipse month and this particular eclipse is right on fall equinox. So we
Mm-hmm.
have the Aries vortex happening right on the vernal equinox.
Hmm.
And then, as we went over in part two, the summer solstice is full of inconjuncts. I think Mars inconjuncts like 5 planets,
Hmm.
full
Yep.
of tension. And this fall equinox, like Dorje said, this is not as fluid as the rest of the year, as I was trying to say. This is actually with Saturn right there on this eclipse. Um, this is this is like this is like a moment of pause where, well, okay, where are we? Where are we right now? And what's going on? And where do we want to be right now? So powerful, man. Thanks. Uh,
Yeah. Thank you.
last
Yeah.
words or ready for the next chart?
Next chart. Let's bring it on.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna go to November 2nd, and this is a retrograde Grand Trine, as Dorje called it. Dorje, you can see it clearly?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, so this is a water trine with Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah, I'll let you
I
say
can't
right
see
now.
it.
What's that?
I cannot see the screen.
You cannot. Okay. See what happened. I think I meant to share. I had the idea to share, but instead I think I just put it in front of the screen. It's just not going to help any of us. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Yeah. November 23rd. There we go.
So I'll add a quick context. So this particular Grand Trine that's occurring in the water signs is happening when the nodes shift again on November 4th. I'm going to do this by memory. I'm pretty sure they go into gate 63, and then I'm forgetting the other gate, but these are mental gates that create a mental channel. And so this is a time of overthinking, of getting caught up in the mind, and if we're not careful, just overrunning the mind and getting caught up in anxiety and processing the collective. Everything that's going on will be processed in the mind during this time, and that can be very challenging. So we'll look at this chart to see what we can find if there's some solutions for that and get your insights too, Dorje.
Well, I mean, just right off the bat, it's like it's really hard to not get overly caught up or stimulated with a Grand Trine. I mean, Grand Trines are just they're just famous for like opening up the gates so that like whatever it is just can run, can just run freely. It's that I mean, but it's a good energy, right? It's a good energy because it's Venus Mercury conjunct. I mean, that's like a processing emotions, being able to process them. It's Jupiter and Cancer. It's Saturn and Pisces, so a very emotional quality. But to me, like there's a little bit of a danger here, and that people get a little bit overly excited about whatever the issue of the day is, right? And well, with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and Saturn retrograde in Pisces. It could be, resources. It could be a lack of resources, and people feeling like, oh, we need to get as much as we can in this situation or out of this situation. And so this could be, like it could see possibly some kind of like bubble type experience, maybe with the resources or crypto. I might theorize where people get really excited about something that isn't really what it is. So I'd say like during the month of November, be very careful with how you allocate your resources and keep a container on how you're thinking, what you're saying to people, and the situations you put yourself into, because this is a type of dynamic energy that things could get out of hand.
Well said. I'll add in, we got a exact conjunction between the asteroid Pholus and the moon, and Pholus
Hmm.
is about things blowing up.
Oh, no kidding.
So
Yeah.
that's an emotional blowout. So that underscores what you said.
Yeah, that's a testimony there, a second
Yeah.
testimony.
And it looks like we have Black Moon Lilith. It's a wide conjunction with Mars, but like raw, raw, like direct, intense warlike energy, coming out, someone coming out with their truth very intensely,
Hmm.
that is. And then we have a loose or a wide, it's not too wide, maybe a little wide opposition between Uranus retrograding back into Taurus and the Venus and Mercury in Scorpio.
Yeah.
Cosmic erraticness with the mind and with Venus, our values, and worry about what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And Mars and Sagittarius doesn't recognize boundaries, and Grand Trines don't recognize boundaries. And the boundary setter, Saturn is retrograde in Pisces, conjunct, actually it's stationed there, conjunct Neptune. So it's a time where boundaries are going to be really put to the test, whether that's individually or collectively.
Got it. Well said. Yeah. All right. Anything else to add in before I go to the next chart?
Let's see that. Let's see what we got here. Let's see how we wrap this up.
So now we're going to go into, I'm calling this the December Vortex Square. Let me know if you can see it clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I could see it and then it disappeared
Oh,
out. Now
no.
I see it. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Yep, got it.
So here we have, in a prior chart, we had, I think it was Jupiter squaring. Oh, no, this was in part two. We had Jupiter squaring the Aries vortex on June I think, ninth and 18th. First scoring Neptune, then scoring Saturn, both 0 to 2 degrees on the Aries vernal equinox degree, the Aries vortex. And so we had a Jupiter square. We're looking at having that Jupiter square in about June, mid-June.
Hmm.
So that would have, expanding, moving into the solstice as we discussed, like just really bringing up all the issues around that. Whatever dream was introduced, whatever new order or new way or new vision was introduced with the Aries vortex, in June we're all looking at it like, what? What is this? This is too much, or it's not clear what's going on, right? With all those inconjuncts from Mars. Like, what the hell's going on? And now we're looking at Mars directly, correct? Squaring this vortex point.
Mm-hmm.
And so what kind of questions are we looking at right now? What do you think with this chart?
With the Mars is coming from Sagittarius, it's this kind of like impulsive urge to expand, and then Saturn's in Pisces. Saturn's gone direct. It's this resistance to the expansion. Good God, I hope we're not invading Greenland at that point or invading Panama. As a US citizen, I hope that's, that. Okay, because it is. It's about crashing the boundaries. So, the previous month, it's like, well, like, forget the boundaries. And then this is the result of forgetting the boundaries, right? This is the crashing of the boundaries and whatever comes from that. You got the moon up in Leo, so that people are kind of like really strongly self-identified with who they are and what they need and what they want and what they think is right. And then you got Mars, which is just like, I'm gonna mow over you. And then it's hitting Saturn and it's hitting Neptune and it's just like crashing through boundaries. And again, it's like, well, we're in a time where there's restructuring. It's a year of heavy restructuring. And that's not always comfortable. And it's not always as bad as we think it is either, Mario. Like some people are just going to be really like resisting whatever the new structure is. Some people are going to be gung ho. Whatever your political ideology is, you're not going to get what you think you're going to get out of this year because what's being born is new. It's not what you think you want, and it's not what you think you don't want. It's some third thing. And this third thing really, I think, comes crashing in around December.
Wow. All right. So I'm going to add a reflection here that may be out of context and maybe, like you said, this could be bringing the old back to the new. So I hope this doesn't occur, but I'm just seeing it too clearly now. So I'll point it out to you. So what it is if you look at where Mars is, right? It's in Sag.
Mm.
So if we think about the United States chart, we
Hmm.
got Sagittarius on the ascendant, correct? If we're using the chart, when the war started, right? There's controversy over which
Oh
chart,
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Sibley chart. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
If we're using the Sibley chart, then that's Mars on the ascendant, and then Jupiter is in 23 degrees Cancer, so that's a little past the sun in the Sibley chart. And then we got some other action here with Uranus and Gemini, which would be the
Hmm.
seventh house of open enemies in the US chart. Or actually, it's retrograding into Taurus.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
going into the past. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that to me, you know what it just made me think of, and this date that you gave me too, right? The date of this particular uh, vortex square is December 8th. So on December 7th of 1941 is when Pearl Harbor occurred.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering and hoping this is not some sudden attack, right, on the United States or some kind of sudden attack on another country. It doesn't have to be the US, but the chart, the Sibley chart, seems to speak to that. I'm wondering if it's not some sudden attack, which is used as an excuse to bring in another level of this Aries vortex vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's
like you're
pretty
saying,
stark.
something, something new again. So I mean, all we can do is observe and see. And I hope not. But when I looked at this chart, I said, that's a lot of tension. That's a lot of war energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mars in Sagittarius likes breaking boundaries. And also at the same time, then Jupiter retrograde is going over Mercury, and if people want to like contemplate like how well it's stationed on the U.S. Sibley chart practically. Uh, let's see. Yeah, no, it's stationed at 23 degrees. Is that right? 20, it stations at 24 degrees, right on the U.S. natal Mercury,
Wow.
ruling the 24, 25 degrees, right on the U.S. natal Mercury in Cancer in the Sibley chart. And that natal Mercury rules the midheaven. It also rules the seventh house. So it is there. There's a little bit of a kind of like bombastic imperialism to this particular moment in time as that Jupiter stations on the US Sibley's Mercury. And, I mean, on whatever side of the political aisle you fall upon, there's definitely murmurings of a type of revitalization of American imperialism that's being broadcast through the mediated airwaves right now.
Or putting America first is another is the media presentation of it, right?
Yeah,
Putting
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one of the
so
presentations.
but that's the political contrast, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
so I mean it could play out as like another way it could play out is like a real collective bargaining or collective kind of like gathering of um ideals of the people and I think it could play out like that in terms of like protests or in terms of uh, yeah, get political will to move against any programs that they think are not appropriate or just. But then you're right. Another way it could play out is kind of like some nation state chess piecing. So I hope that's not the case.
because if so, that actually
Ideally, what's that?
underscores, if so, that actually underscores the point because that's how they would put America first, right? You
Yeah,
do
yeah,
something to
yeah,
gain power, you make it
yeah.
look like it's attacked. I mean, that's political strategy 101, right? That's what is done,
Seems like it's happened before more than once in both American history and world history.
right? But you were gonna say, sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
no, yeah, that's right on. That's right on. I mean, but Mario, like, okay, so like we've cascaded now down through these events over the year. How do you sum up the year? Like when you look at the year, like what's your advice to people to navigate what, may be tumultuous and very transformative times?
Wow, I mean, for the first half of the year, focus on your relationships. Make sure you're asking for your needs and knowing what your needs are,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you're asking the other person what their needs are so that
Mm-hmm.
both and all of you can get through all the struggles because we're all going to be struggling through these new visions and new dreams and new ideas coming forth that are not necessarily new but are now actually being put into implementation. And I mean, it starts with our, how we relate to our loved ones, and our friends and our individual level. Are we hearing each other?
Yeah.
Are we helping and supporting each other as best we can and supporting our own visions? My suggestion for the first half of the year is to focus on making your vision happen
Hmm.
and and do your best not to give your power away to the mundane, to these uh, quote unquote leaders, on social media and all these, because we're just being blasted with ideas, and that's how it works. I mean, that's how you destroy knowledge, is you
Mm-hmm.
overflood the mind with information so that
Yeah.
the mind can no longer discern, but is
Of
just
the zone.
lost in a sea and drowning in information. How about you, Dorje? How about you for the first half of the year?
Oh, no, I think that's right on, and my site is and my brand is Heart Astrology, and it's really like being in that heart-centered place as much as you can be with those who you have connection to, and uplifting it because like from that place of the heart, that's the healing place in relationships. And that's how, like, when someone's really stressed out, if you can connect with them on a heart level, you can immediately help them, like, center down into who they are. And that's the work we're all going to have to do with each other is help support each other, like, be grounded, be centered, and be positive. Because I think, like, on all sides of the political spectrum, like times of great chaos is the breaking apart of the structures and the monoliths of power get very grumpy when their structures and their grasps on the power are getting broken apart on all sides of the political
Yeah,
spectrum,
that's well said.
and so we need to like take a step back from whatever our own politics are and just reach out and be like, loving and good towards other people. And like you said, to ourselves, and like, well, I'm gonna walk my path true. I'm gonna walk my path true. And I feel like that's just the best advice that you gave there. Like walk your path true and be loving.
Yeah, well said. Well said. We'll compliment you. What do you feel about the second part of the year, beginning with, the equinox? No, sorry, the solstice, and moving to the eclipses of September and the rest of the year.
But I'm generally of the sense of like, A, stay grounded again, but also B, like, don't let your head get caught up in the winds of the time and the gale winds of the time. Like, don't let whatever forces out there that are like stirring things up, like pull you into their dynamic belief system and put you on the front lines in a situation where you don't want to be. And I think that's really, really important at that point for the second half of the year.
Oh, yeah, well said. Well said. I actually have a quote similar to that. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, so we're in line with each other here
Yeah,
and
because I
how we're
wrote
seeing this.
I wrote that it's a year where nothing is as it seems.
Hmm.
And on every level, on every layer, on every
Yeah, yeah. That's that Neptune quality, that
yeah. That's the
Saturn dance.
that's the
Yeah.
Neptune presentation. And then how I feel about the second part of the year is, as Dorje was kind of underscoring for us, as it does seem from afar, it seems like, oh, things will kind of calm and the rest of the year will go as easy and not as intense as the Aries Vortex spring. However, I think with some of the charts we did for the second part of the year and the nodes being in 22, gate of grace or disgrace, and 47, the gate of oppression, I think that there'll be reactiveness to that Aries vortex to whatever occurs. And so for us, I think, and also with Pluto being out of bounds and being so powerful this year, it being, the beginning of the rave new year and the beginning of a new cycle, I think, as Pluto does, Pluto will destroy any and everything that's not authentic.
Hmm. True.
And so it could mean that maybe some of what we do as humans, some of our fields and disciplines and ways of doing things, it's maybe there's a new way. Now, is this hopefully this new way involves us, you know what I mean? Because it just looks otherwise, at least that's one of the visions. But another vision could be, how can we as humans create a new, vision for ourselves on how we can support each other in a world of dissolving structures. What
Hmm.
structures do we want to build? And to do it authentically, because that's what Pluto asks. Pluto will only support authenticity in terms of the social and the communal structure. And this will impact everyone because Pluto in Aquarius is also calling into question any deception put on the masses, so all the deception that we've experienced through our leaders, our artists, our actors, every field is being questioned as to whether they have been authentic. And if not, those careers are being destroyed as well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that there's another side to that, which is that also people who are authentic coming at it from, that Aries 0 point warrior nature, because Aries is a sign of the warrior, um, and are they might be like brought down too, so it's really in my mind there's just this quality this year of like really going into your heart to like, oh, this is what's true for me, and abiding within that and being willing to like embrace the enlightened spiritual warrior quality of that Aries, which isn't necessarily like, going out and hurting people or projecting your shadow on other people, but is like really like how do I live a spiritual truth in a world that's just gone a little bit mad?
Beautiful, beautiful said, because that fits in with I think my 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 real we're kind of getting to it, right? Like my real vision of this year, I feel, is to witness, is to observe what is occurring, right? And be in that
Hmm.
spiritual place of observation and witnessing, of silent witnessing, and just observe what's happening, being in the heart, being in your own body, being in your own integrity and authenticity, and only jumping in to get involved when it's correct. When you feel the
Yeah.
correct impulse
Yeah.
to jump in and do something and make yourself seen and make your word or your own vision and your own truth present and seen, then to do so. But otherwise, we're just observing this rare, carnival that's just is coming into town, and seeing what is occurring, seeing, discerning through the mist, through all um, the glamours that are going to be put before us, and seeing through that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mario.
You
Yeah.
and I
And
think everyone who listened. Okay,
what's that? Oh, I was just gonna say Dorje here, it's thank you very much, Mario. And if you have any like desire to know how your personal chart navigates through this, both Mario and I give readings. It'd be good to hear from you.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm on plutonicplanes.com is my website, and I have my YouTube,
Yeah.
Plutonic Planes as well. And Dorje has his site, heartastrology.com.
Yep.
And thanks so much for listening. Hopefully, this was helpful to you in where you're going to be this year and how.
Stay centered. Stay centered.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.